Hello. A quick update today. My Zoom with Zarni that was supposed to be happening today with Perry Grossman will be moved to Tuesday of next week due to a scheduling conflict on my part. But I wanted to bring to you my testimony or speech yesterday for the January 6th event, Defending Democracy in Central New York, hosted by Veterans Organize CNY. I had a brief opportunity to give some thoughts about why I believe January 6th happened a year ago and what our call is in action in the future. So I wanted to bring that to you today in lieu of my Zoom with Zarni, and I hope you enjoy. Please look for the link in my description to the entire event and some incredible speakers hosted by Roger Miso and a host of other speakers. And please stay to the end for Youssef Abdul Qadir's closing remarks, which were incredible. And so please check that out. In the meantime, here are my remarks at the event, and I hope you enjoy. Bye-bye.
So next up, I have the privilege of introducing another good friend, Onondaga County Democratic Elections Commissioner Dustin Zarni. Dustin is a graduate of Skaneateles High School and Onondaga Community College. He's held this position as Elections Commissioner since 2013 and is recognized both nationally and statewide as an expert defender of voting rights, and has probably forgotten more about voting than most people have ever known. So Commissioner, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roger. And luckily, everything I've forgotten about voting is no longer relevant since all the election laws have changed so much over the last few years. I wanted to thank Roger and all of you for being here on this solemn occasion. And I think it's important to remember how we got to where we were a year ago today, because this did not start on January 6th. It didn't start on November 3rd. It didn't start during the presidential election. And no, it didn't start in 2016 with the election of President Trump. It started many, many years before that. For decades, we had rhetoric on certain sides of the political spectrum that of unprovable, unsubstantiated voter fraud, which chipped away at our assurity of the vote, at our willingness to accept results that we did not agree with. And for many, many decades, people thought, what's the harm of forwarding this lie, this deception that there was so much voter fraud out there, that it had to be voter fraud, that we needed to pass laws like voter ID laws, which were targeted against certain segments of the community, to gerrymander districts to allow for election outcomes that favor our political party. These are things that perpetuated and were the precursor of the big lie. And yes, President Trump and his allies, they perfected this. But I think it would be important, and I think it would be foolish to think that this is the apex and that it's going to stop, because this stuff continues today. And so these people that assailed our Capitol on January 6th were fed these lies, not just for days, not just for weeks, but for years. And they felt justified in their actions because of these lies. And we all, as a society, need to stand up against those who perpetuate these myths and those who believe them, because these cynical assertions is what led us to that fateful day last year, where so many of our citizens, our neighbors, our friends, not only decided to storm the Capitol and disgrace our institution, and during a time where we were selecting our next president and in a time of peaceful, or what was supposed to be peaceful transfer of power. For the first time in our history, really, we saw this happen. Not only did it happen then, it's happened since then. Since then, we have seen leaders across our country diminish their roles in what happened on January 6th and what actually happened. We've heard the tales that these were just tourists. We've heard the tales that this was just a protest. The video is there. It doesn't lie. And the brave man who opened up this program was there. And his fellow brothers and sisters that stood shoulder to shoulder to defend our democracy were there. And they can tell you this was not a protest. This was not a simple misunderstanding. This was an attack on our democracy, which is an attack on every one of us, whether we voted for Donald Trump, voted for Joe Biden, or someone else. Because if we can't have an assurity of results, if we can't have a peaceful transfer of power, even when we disagree with the outcomes, then we lose not just our democracy, not just our countries, but we lose ourselves, because we cannot stand and have a civil society and agree to disagree and agree that others can lead if we don't vote for them. Then we will lose our very core of who we are as Americans. And that is why I hope that we will find our way over the next few years, decades. It took a long time to get into the place that we're in. So it's important that we remember that this assault on our Capitol was born from the myth of voter fraud, and really born from the discrimination that those who we do not agree with are allowed to rule us if they win more votes. And that is why we must stand up for election reform here in New York State and at the federal level. We must protect those who can't protect themselves. We must pass laws that do not restrict our vote, but actually expand the franchise and make sure that we're giving everyone a chance to get to the ballot and cast the vote they want. And then that we must fight against any assertion that the winner of the election should not be listened to, should not be followed, should not be installed, just because we don't agree with the election outcome. So that is what I would hope to impart to you today. I want to thank Roger and everyone on this call. And I really pray for our democracy every day. And I know I'll fight for it in the ways that I can. And I urge all of you to do so as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. And I got to commend you and your Republican counterpart, Commissioner Sardo, for how you run the elections process. I tell a lot of my friends who are who doubt the validity of elections to participate in the elections process as ballot counters, as volunteers, as observers, because it isn't like there is some secret. You can participate in the process, and you and Michelle make that very easy here in Onondaga County. And we thank you for that. We thank you for the confidence you inspire in our elections and that you've inspired for the last 9 years now.